Hello and welcome to the vocabulary class for everybody, for every level. We are here to learn English together. So join us and subscribe to improve your vocabulary. So let's start our journey. Lesson 4. Job. Journalist. A person who writes news stories or articles for a newspaper or magazine or broadcasts them on radio or television. For example, my job as a journalist is to expose the truth. TV presenter. Someone who introduces a television or radio show. For example, she was speaking in her capacity as a novelist rather than as a television presenter. Newscaster. Someone who reads out the reports in a television or radio news program. For example, the newscaster was in competition with 10 others for the job. Actor. Actress. Someone who pretends to be someone else while performing in a film, play, or television or radio program. For example, he is certainly the finest actor in Hollywood today. Comedian. A person whose job is to make people laugh by telling jokes and funny stories, or by copying the behavior or speech of famous people. For example, he started as a stand-up comedian. Businessman. A man who works in business, especially one who has a high position in company. For example, he was a successful businessman before becoming a writer. Accountant. Someone who keeps or examines the records of money received, paid, and owed by a company or person. For example, my brother is studying to be an accountant. Cashier. A person whose job is to receive and pay out money in a shop, bank, restaurant, and etc. For example, I work at a bookstore as a cashier once a week. Secretary. Someone who works in an office, writing letters, making phone calls, and arranging meetings for a person or for an organization. For example, my secretary will phone you to arrange a meeting. Tailor. Someone whose job is to repair, make, and adjust clothes, especially someone who makes jackets, trousers, coats, and etc. For example, the tailor has cut my coat very well. Welder. A person whose job is welding. For example, he is a skilled welder. Electrician. A person who puts in, checks, and repairs electrical wires and electrical equipments. For example, the electrician has diagnosed a fault in the wiring. Plasterer. A person whose job is to color walls and ceilings with plaster. For example, the plasterers were rendering the walls. Bus driver. Someone whose job is to drive a bus. For example, she worked as a New York City bus driver. Taxi driver. A person who drives a taxi as a job. For example, she is employed as a taxi driver. Florist. A person who works in a shop that sells cut flowers and plants for inside the house. For example, the florist made up an attractive bouquet. Farmer, farmer. Someone who owns or takes care of a farm. For example, the drought has made farmers anxious about the harvest. Butcher, butcher. A person who sells meat in a shop. Our local butcher is closing down. Engineer, engineer. A person whose job is to design or build machines, engines, or electrical equipment, or things such as roads, railways, or bridges using scientific principles. For example, the engineer is coming to repair our phone tomorrow morning. Sailor, sailor. A person who works on a ship, especially one who is not an officer. For example, he was a young sailor on his first sea voyage. Security guard, security guard. Someone whose job is to guard buildings, goods in stores, money that is being transported, and etc. For example, he works as a security guard at the local warehouse. Writer, writer. A person who writes books or articles to be published. For example, she is a well-known writer of children's books. Flight attendant, flight attendant. Someone who serves passengers on an aircraft. For example, the flight attendant demonstrated how to use life jacket. Receptionist, receptionist. A person who works in an office, store, or hotel, helping visitors or giving information. For example, he is a receptionist of a Beijing hotel. Programmer, programmer. A person whose job is to produce computer programs. For example, we have a vacancy for a computer programmer. Scientist, scientist. An expert who studies or works in one of the sciences. For example, a team of scientists from the University of Sydney. Frogman, frogman. A person who swims underwater wearing a rubber suit, flippers, and an oxygen supply. For example, police frogmen searched the lake for the murder weapon. Waiter, waiter. A man whose job is to bring the food to customers at their tables in a restaurant. For example, the waiter handed me the menu with a flourish. Waitress, waitress. A woman whose job is to bring the food to customers at their tables in a restaurant. For example, she took a job as a waitress. Thank you very much for your time and consideration. If you like our video, please subscribe to our channel and give us a like.